Captain Jake Morrison stood at the big window of his ship, the UES Liberty. He watched the alien ships getting closer. The ships looked strange, with their blue metal and curved shapes. These aliens called themselves the Zenthari. They had been fighting humans for 3 long years. Now they wanted to talk about peace. Jake felt worried in his stomach. Something did not feel right about this meeting. The Zenthari had asked to meet at a place far from both human and alien worlds. They said this would make the peace talks fair for everyone. But Jake had been a soldier for 20 years. He knew when something felt wrong. Admiral Lisa Carter had picked Jake for this job herself. She trusted him to handle both fighting and talking. Jake was good at reading people, even alien people. The Liberty was a big ship, but today it carried only small weapons. This was supposed to show the aliens that humans wanted peace. Jake hated having weak weapons, but orders were orders. Dr. Kevin Walsh sat at his desk reading files about the Zenthari. Kevin knew more about aliens than almost anyone in the human fleet. He had studied the blue-skinned Zenthari for 2 years. Their culture was built on honor and truth. They never lied, according to their own rules. This made Kevin feel confused about why Jake seemed so worried. "Captain," Kevin said, walking to Jake at the window, "the Zenthari have never broken their word before. Their honor code makes lying impossible. Why do you think they would start now?" Jake turned to look at the doctor. Kevin was a smart man, but he thought too much like a scientist. He believed that rules always worked the same way. Jake knew that war changed people. It probably changed aliens too. "Maybe they have not lied before," Jake said. "But people do new things when they are desperate. We have been winning this war. Their home planets are in trouble. Desperate people do desperate things." On the bridge, Lieutenant Commander Amy Brooks sat at her station listening to space radio signals. Amy was the best at understanding alien communications in the whole fleet. She spoke 3 alien languages and could break their secret codes. Today she was hearing strange things from the Zenthari ships. The alien ships were sending messages to each other, but not in their normal talk language. They were using their military code language. Amy knew this language from studying captured alien computers. The messages talked about final positions and target confirmation. These were not words for peace talks. Amy felt her heart beat faster. She checked her equipment twice to make sure she was hearing correctly. Then she walked quickly to Captain Morrison. "Sir," Amy said quietly so others could not hear, "I am picking up Zenthari military communications. They are not talking about peace. They are talking about attack positions." Jake felt his stomach drop. He had been right to worry, but now he had to decide what to do. If he acted like he knew about the alien plan, it might start a fight too early. If he did nothing, his ship and crew might die. "Keep listening," Jake told Amy. "Record everything, but do not let anyone know you are doing this." Jake walked back to his captain's chair and thought hard. The Liberty had 600 people on board. There were also human diplomats coming to this meeting on other ships. If the Zenthari were planning an attack, many humans would die. Jake made a decision that felt dangerous but right. He pressed a secret button on his chair. This button sent a hidden signal to human space. The signal was coded to look like a normal ship report. But really, it told the human fleet that something bad might happen here. The signal would take 6 hours to reach the nearest human base. If Jake was wrong, he would look foolish. If he was right, that signal might save many human lives. Dr. Walsh came back to the bridge with more alien files. "Captain, I have been reading about Zenthari history. They have one old story that worries me. Long ago, their people were almost destroyed by an enemy that pretended to want peace. Maybe they learned from that story." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Maybe they think we are like that old enemy. Maybe they think the only way to be safe is to attack us first, even during peace talks." This made Jake feel even more worried. If the Zenthari believed humans could not be trusted, then they might think a sneak attack was the right thing to do. In their minds, they would be protecting their people. Amy heard more alien messages. This time, she heard numbers. The numbers matched the positions of human ships in this area. The Zenthari were counting human ships and recording where they were. This was definitely preparation for battle, not peace. Jake called his top officers to a private meeting. He told them what Amy had heard. He also told them about the secret signal he had sent. "Sir," said Commander Tony Martinez, the ship's security chief, "should we warn the diplomatic ships?" Jake thought about this. The diplomatic ships carried Ambassador Richard Cole and other important humans. But if Jake warned them openly, the Xanthari might hear the warning. That could start the fight before humans were ready. "Not yet," Jake said. "But get our people ready for trouble. Check all weapons. Make sure our shields work. Tell the crew to be ready for anything, but do not tell them why." The Xanthari ships were now very close. Jake could see their strange blue lights and curved weapons. The alien ships were beautiful in a deadly way. Each ship looked like it could destroy the Liberty easily. But Jake had one advantage. The Xanthari thought humans were weak and trusting. They thought humans had come here with only small weapons and peaceful hearts. They did not know that Jake had sent the secret signal. They did not know that humans could be suspicious too. As the alien ships moved into position around the human ships, Jake felt ready for whatever would happen next. He had done everything he could to protect his people. Now he had to wait and see if the Xanthari really wanted peace or if they wanted something else entirely. The space station Haven 7 floated between the human and Xanthari ships like a metal island in the darkness. Ambassador Richard Cole walked through its corridors toward the main meeting room. He had been a diplomat for 15 years, but he had never felt this nervous before. Richard wore his best uniform with the gold buttons that showed his rank. Behind him walked Helen Davis, his assistant, and Tony Martinez, his security guard. Helen carried the papers for the peace treaty in a special case. Tony watched everything around them with careful eyes. The Xanthari were already waiting in the meeting room. Their leader was High Counselor Vexithara, a tall alien woman with blue skin and 6 eyes. She wore long purple robes that touched the floor. Her face showed no feelings at all. "Welcome, humans," Vexithara said in perfect English. "We are pleased that you have come to end this terrible war." Richard smiled and bowed slightly. "We are happy to be here too. Humans and Xanthari have fought too long. It is time for peace." The ceremony began with both sides reading their promises out loud. Richard read the human promises to stop fighting and to respect Xanthari space. Vexithara read similar promises for her people. The words sounded good, but Tony noticed something strange. The Xanthari guards were moving around the room in a pattern. They looked like they were getting ready for something. Tony had been a soldier before becoming a security guard. He knew how soldiers moved when they were preparing for action. Helen was writing notes about the ceremony when she saw Tony looking worried. She leaned close to him and whispered, "What is wrong?" "The alien guards," Tony whispered back. "They are positioning themselves like they expect trouble." Helen looked around the room. The Xanthari guards stood near all the doors and windows. They also stood near the controls for the station's lights and air systems. This seemed like too many guards for a peace meeting. Meanwhile, on the Liberty, Amy Brooks was still listening to alien radio signals. The signals were getting stronger and more frequent. She heard new words that made her hands shake. The aliens were talking about target elimination and Phase 2 activation. Amy ran to Captain Morrison with her headphones still on. "Sir, they are not just planning to attack our ships. They are planning to kill all the human diplomats too. This whole peace meeting is a trap." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. The Xanthari had invited humans to talk about peace, but they really wanted to kill human leaders and destroy human ships all at once. It was a smart plan, but it was also evil. "How long before they attack?" Jake asked. "I think very soon," Amy said. "They keep saying final phase and 0 hour approaching." Jake had to make the hardest decision of his life. If he warned Ambassador Cole directly, the Xanthari might hear the warning and attack immediately. But if he did nothing, Cole and his people would die. Jake decided to send a coded message. He used old military signals that looked like normal ship communications. The message said, "The harvest moon rises early." This was a secret phrase that meant, the peace talks have gone very wrong. Back on Haven 7, Richard was signing the peace treaty papers when his communication device made a soft beep. The message appeared to be a routine ship report, but Richard had been trained to read military codes. When he saw "The harvest moon rises early," his blood turned cold. Richard kept smiling, but inside he was thinking fast. The message meant that the Xanthari were planning to attack, but he was surrounded by alien guards with weapons. If he acted scared or surprised, they might kill him and his people right away. "High Counselor," Richard said calmly, "this is a historic moment. Perhaps we should have a feast to celebrate our new peace." Vexathara's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "Yes, that would be appropriate. We have prepared traditional Xanthari foods for this occasion." As servers brought in food and drinks, Richard used the movement and noise to whisper to Helen and Tony. He told them about the coded message without letting the aliens see his lips move. Helen's face went pale, but she kept serving food and acting normal. Tony slowly moved his hand closer to his weapon, but he did not draw it yet. They all knew they were in terrible danger. The feast continued for an hour. Richard, Helen, and Tony ate alien food and smiled at alien jokes. But inside, they were preparing for the worst moment of their lives. On the Liberty, Dr. Walsh was studying his alien files when he found something important. "Captain," he called to Jake, "I found something in the Xanthari cultural records. They have a tradition called the False Feast. When their enemies are too strong to fight fairly, they invite them to a meal and then attack during the celebration." Jake cursed under his breath. The aliens were following their own old traditions. They probably thought this made their attack honorable instead of treacherous. Amy suddenly stood up from her communication station. "Sir, I am detecting massive energy signatures approaching from behind the gas giant. Multiple ships, very large ones." Jake looked at his main screen. The gas giant was a huge planet made of gas and storms. Ships could hide behind it easily. If the Xanthari had hidden a fleet there, humans were in serious trouble. "How many ships?" Jake asked. "I count at least 200, sir. Maybe more. They are moving into attack position." Jake felt his heart pound. The Liberty and the few other human ships at the peace meeting could not fight 200 alien warships. But maybe they did not have to fight alone. Jake's secret signal from earlier had reached human space. If Admiral Carter had received it and understood its meaning, help might be coming. But help would take time to arrive, and time was running out. On Haven 7, the feast was ending when Vexathara stood up. Her 6 eyes looked at Richard with something that might have been sadness. "Ambassador Cole," she said, "there is something we must tell you." Richard's hand moved slowly toward his emergency communicator. "What is that, High Counselor?" "The peace treaty you have signed is not real. It was only a way to bring your ships and your leaders to one place. We are sorry, but our people need your worlds to survive. Sometimes survival requires deception." Tony jumped up and reached for his weapon, but alien guards were faster. Plasma rifles pointed at the 3 humans from every direction. There was no way to fight or run. Richard activated his emergency communicator and spoke clearly. "The harvest moon rises early. Repeat, the harvest moon rises early." The message went out on all frequencies. Every human ship in the area would hear it. Now, everyone would know that the peace talks had become a death trap. Vexathara looked confused. "Why do you speak of harvest moons, Ambassador?" Richard smiled, even though he might die in the next few minutes. "Because humans learned long ago to prepare for betrayal, even when we hope for peace." Outside the station, the hidden Xanthari fleet emerged from behind the gas giant like metal sharks smelling blood. War Marshal Kethavar led them in his enormous ship, the Void Render. The ship was black and covered with weapons that could destroy planets. Kethavar opened communications to all human ships. "Humans, you are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now and some of you may live to serve the Xanthari Empire." Captain Morrison looked at the alien fleet on his screen. 200 ships against maybe 20 human ships. The odds were impossible. But Jake smiled anyway. "Negative," he replied to the alien commander. "We came here for peace, but we brought friends just in case." War Marshal Kethvar laughed when he heard Captain Morrison's words. The alien commander looked at his screens showing the human ships. They were small and few. His fleet was huge and powerful. What friends could the humans possibly have in this empty space? You humans are brave but foolish, Kethvar said over the radio. I see no friends coming to help you. Surrender now or we will destroy every human ship. But Morrison was not looking at the alien fleet anymore. He was looking at his secret communications panel. 3 small lights were blinking green. This meant that Captain Ruth Thompson, Major Pete Collins, and Commander Steve Parker were all in position. The Xanthari could not see them yet, but they were there. Hidden throughout the asteroid field, 3 special human ships waited in complete darkness. These ships used new technology that made them invisible to alien sensors. The technology was called dark matter cloaking, and it had taken human scientists 5 years to build it. Captain Ruth Thompson sat in her ship, the Shadow Strike, watching the alien fleet through special cameras. Ruth had been a fighter pilot before commanding this stealth destroyer. She knew how to strike fast and hard when enemies did not expect it. All stealth ships. This is Shadow Leader, Ruth whispered into her radio. Target the alien command ships. First, we need to cut off their communications before they can coordinate an attack. Major Pete Collins commanded the stealth ship Ghostblade. Pete had grown up poor in a city where you learned to fight or you died. He had brought that fighting spirit into space with him. Now he aimed his ship's weapons at a large Xanthari cruiser. Commander Steve Parker led the 3rd stealth ship, Night Phantom. Steve was the youngest of the 3 captains, but he was also the smartest. He had helped design the dark matter cloaking system himself. Steve targeted the alien ship closest to Haven 7 station. Meanwhile, Dr. Nathan Scott was still on Haven 7 with the human diplomats. Nathan was not a soldier or a diplomat. He was a computer scientist who specialized in alien technology. For 6 months, he had been working on a secret project in his laboratory. Nathan's project was a computer virus designed specifically for Xanthari systems. He had studied captured alien computers and learned how their networks operated. The virus was designed to spread through their ship computers and cause their weapons and navigation to malfunction. As the Xanthari guards pointed their weapons at Ambassador Cole, Nathan quietly activated a small device hidden in his jacket. The device sent the virus into Haven 7's computer systems. From there, the virus would spread to any Xanthari ship connected to the station's network. Back on Earth, General Dan Murphy sat in the Strategic Command Center deep underground. Dan had been waiting for Morrison's emergency signal for 3 days. When the coded message finally arrived, Dan immediately activated Operation Thunderstrike. All across human space, hidden military bases began launching special missiles. These missiles were different from normal weapons. They used experimental jump drive technology that could cross vast distances in minutes instead of months. Each missile carried enough antimatter to destroy a large alien ship. General Murphy watched his screens as hundreds of missiles launched from secret bases on 12 different worlds. The missiles would take 30 minutes to reach the battle area. Murphy hoped the humans at the peace meeting could survive that long. On Haven 7, Tony Martinez was watching the alien guards carefully. Tony had been a Marine before becoming a security officer. He knew that sometimes the best defense was a sudden attack, but he was waiting for the right moment. The moment came when the lights on the station suddenly flickered. Nathan's virus was beginning to affect the station's systems. In the brief darkness, Tony threw himself at the nearest guard and grabbed the alien's plasma rifle. "Down!" Tony shouted to Ambassador Cole and Helen Davis. The 2 diplomats dropped to the floor as Tony fired at the alien guards. The plasma bolts lit up the room with blue light. Helen crawled toward the room's control panel while Tony fought the guards. She was not a soldier, but she was smart and brave. Helen knew that if she could lock down the room, they might have a chance to survive until help arrived. High Counselor Vexithera drew her own weapon and aimed at Tony. But before she could fire, the station's artificial gravity suddenly failed. Everyone in the room began floating toward the ceiling, including the alien guards. Nathan's virus was spreading faster than anyone expected. On the Xanthari fleet, ships began reporting system failures. Navigation computers showed wrong directions. Weapon targeting systems could not lock onto human ships. Communication systems played music instead of military orders. The virus was turning their advanced fleet into a collection of confused, helpless ships. War Marshal Kethvar screamed orders at his crew, but his own ship was having problems too. The Void Render's main weapons would not fire. The ship's engines kept shutting down and restarting. Even the lights in his command center were flashing on and off. "What is happening?" Kethvar demanded. "How are the humans doing this?" His technology officer, a nervous alien named Zex High, checked his computers frantically. "Sir, there appears to be some kind of computer virus in our systems. It is spreading through the entire fleet." Kethvar could not believe what he was hearing. His people had the most advanced technology in the galaxy. How could primitive human computers affect Zenthari ships? The answer was that human computers were not primitive. They were different. Human technology had developed in ways that surprised aliens. While the Zenthari had focused on making their systems more powerful, humans had focused on making their systems more flexible and creative. Captain Morrison saw the chaos beginning in the alien fleet. This was the moment he had been waiting for. "All stealth ships attack now," he ordered. Ruth Thompson's Shadow Strike suddenly appeared next to a large Zenthari cruiser. The alien ship's sensors had been looking for human ships far away. They never expected an attack from so close. Ruth's plasma cannons tore through the alien ship's shields and hull. Pete Collins attacked from above, diving his ghost blade down onto an alien destroyer like a hawk attacking a mouse. Pete's ship was small, but its weapons were designed to punch through the strongest alien armor. The destroyer exploded in a ball of fire. Steve Parker used a different strategy. Instead of attacking the biggest ships, he targeted the small communication ships that connected the alien fleet. Without communications, the large ships could not work together. Steve destroyed 3 communication ships in less than 2 minutes. The Zenthari fleet was in chaos. Ships collided with each other as their navigation systems failed. Weapons fired randomly into space instead of at human targets. Some ships tried to retreat, but their engines would not obey commands. On Haven 7, Tony Martinez had managed to overpower 2 alien guards in the zero-gravity environment. Humans were better at fighting without gravity because their space training included zero-G combat. The aliens had not expected this advantage. Ambassador Cole grabbed a floating plasma rifle and helped Tony fight the remaining guards. Cole was a diplomat, not a soldier, but he knew how to shoot. Together, he and Tony cleared the room of alien threats. Helen Davis had reached the control panel and was trying to restore the station's systems. The virus had affected everything, but Helen was good with computers. She managed to restore gravity and emergency power to their section of the station. Dr. Nathan Scott smiled as he watched his virus spread through the Zenthari networks. The aliens had made their systems too connected and too trusting. They never expected that this strength could become a weakness. Human paranoia had created better computer security than alien honor. As the first wave of chaos hit the alien fleet, Morrison knew that the real battle was just beginning. The stealth ships had surprised the enemy, but there were still many alien ships left. The virus would slow them down, but it would not stop them forever. Morrison opened communications to the entire human fleet. "All ships, this is Liberty. The enemy has revealed their true intentions. We are at war. Fight for your lives, fight for your families, and fight for humanity." The humans had come to this place hoping for peace, but they had prepared for war. Now that war had come, they were ready to show the galaxy what humans could do when their survival was threatened. The battle exploded across space like a deadly fireworks show. Ruth Thompson's stealth ships darted between the confused Zenthari vessels like deadly ghosts. The aliens were still trying to figure out why their computers were not working when human plasma cannons began tearing their ships apart. War Marshal Kethvar finally managed to get his communication systems working long enough to send orders to his fleet. "All ships, switch to manual control. Ignore the computers and fight with your hands and eyes." Some Zenthari ships managed to follow these orders. They began firing back at the human stealth ships, but fighting manually was much harder than using computers. The aliens had to guess where to aim instead of letting machines do the targeting. "Major," Pete Collins found himself in a deadly dance with 3 alien fighters. His ghost blade twisted and spun through space as plasma bolts flew past him. Pete had learned to fly in the asteroid mining fields, where one mistake meant death. Those skills served him well now. "Come on, you blue-skinned lizards," Pete muttered as he lined up a shot. "Let me show you how humans fight." Pete's cannons fired in perfect sequence, hitting all 3 alien fighters. The ships exploded one after another like firecrackers going off. Pete whooped with joy and looked for his next target. On Haven 7 station, Colonel Sam Wright was leading a team of human soldiers through the corridors. Sam had been hiding on a supply ship during the peace talks just in case something went wrong. Now he was fighting his way toward the diplomatic section to rescue Ambassador Cole. With Sam were Sergeant Carol Bell and Corporal Jim Foster. Carol was an expert at using alien technology against aliens. Jim was the best close combat fighter in the human Marines. Together, they moved through the station like a small army. "Contact ahead," Carol whispered, pointing her scanner around a corner. 6 Xanthari guards armed with plasma rifles. Sam nodded and made hand signals to his team. Carol activated a device that took control of the station's fire suppression system. Suddenly, the corridor ahead filled with thick foam designed to put out fires. The alien guards could not see anything. Jim rushed into the foam cloud with his combat knife. He was trained to fight by touch and sound when he could not see. The aliens were not trained for this. Jim took down 4 guards before they knew what was happening. Carol and Sam finished off the remaining guards with their rifles. They moved forward through the station, using its own systems against the alien invaders. The Xanthari had taken control of the station, but they did not understand human technology well enough to prevent sabotage. Meanwhile, Commander Alice Green was approaching the battle area in her command ship, the Thunder Bay. Alice had been stationed 3 star systems away when Morrison's emergency signal arrived. She had immediately jumped to hyperspace with every ship she could gather. Alice's fleet was not large, but it carried the most dangerous weapons humanity had ever built. Each ship was loaded with experimental antimatter missiles that could destroy even the largest alien vessels. The missiles used quantum phase technology that could pass right through alien shields. "All ships, this is Thunder Leader," Alice announced to her fleet. "Target the largest enemy vessels first. Remember, these missiles are experimental. We only get 1 shot, so make it count." Alice's fleet included 12 destroyers and 4 heavy cruisers. Each ship carried 20 antimatter missiles. That meant Alice had brought 320 planet-killer weapons to this battle. She planned to use every single one. Back on the Xanthari flagship, War Marshal Kethvar was getting desperate. His fleet was being torn apart by invisible human ships and computer viruses. Now his sensors were detecting new human ships approaching from hyperspace. "How many humans are coming?" Kethvar demanded. 16 ships, sir," his sensor officer replied. "But they are moving in attack formation. And sir, I am detecting massive energy signatures from their weapons." Kethvar realized that the humans had been planning for this battle all along. The peace talks had been real for the humans, but they had prepared for betrayal. The Xanthari trap had become a human counter-trap. Dr. Nathan Scott was still on Haven 7, but now he was helping Colonel Wright's team. Nathan had access to the station's main computer systems. He was using his knowledge of alien technology to turn the station's defenses against the Xanthari. "I can activate the station's defense turrets," Nathan told Wright over the radio. "But I need you to get to the command center first." Wright's team fought their way through more alien guards. The Xanthari were tough fighters, but they were used to fighting in open space, not in narrow corridors. Humans were better at close quarters combat. When Wright reached the command center, he found it defended by 12 elite Xanthari warriors. These aliens were bigger and stronger than the regular guards. They wore heavy armor and carried energy swords that could cut through metal. "Jim, Carol, we do this together," Wright said. "Use the doorways for cover and pick them off one by one." The battle in the command center was brutal. The alien warriors were skilled, but Wright's team was smarter. They used the room's computer consoles and furniture for protection. They also used human weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Carol threw a sonic grenade that made a sound so loud it confused the alien's sensitive hearing. Jim used his plasma rifle to cut through alien armor. Wright coordinated the attack, while fighting off two warriors at the same time. When the command center was finally secure, Nathan activated the station's defense systems. Automated turrets began firing at Xanthari ships from every part of Haven 7. The aliens had to choose between attacking human ships or defending against their own captured station. In space, Alice Green's fleet had arrived and was forming battle lines. Alice looked at her tactical display and saw the chaos of the ongoing battle. The stealth ships were still fighting, but they were outnumbered. The antimatter missiles would even the odds. "All ships lock onto targets," Alice ordered. "Fire when ready." 320 antimatter missiles launched from the human fleet. Each missile was guided by artificial intelligence that could think faster than any living pilot. The missiles spread out through space, seeking the largest and most dangerous Xanthari ships. The first missiles reached their targets 30 seconds later. A massive Xanthari battleship simply vanished in a ball of pure energy. Then another. Then another. The antimatter weapons were so powerful that nearby alien ships were damaged just by being close to the explosions. War Marshal Kethvar watched in horror as his fleet was destroyed around him. His finest ships, built over decades, were being erased from existence by human weapons he had never imagined possible. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving a message from the human commander." "Put it through," Kethvar said grimly. Captain Morrison's voice came over the speaker, calm and professional. "War Marshal Kethvar, your fleet is defeated. Your people are dying for nothing. Surrender now, and we will spare the survivors." Kethvar looked at his tactical display. Of his 200 ships, less than 50 remained functional. His trap had failed completely. The humans had outmaneuvered, outfought, and outplanned his entire force. But Kethvar was a proud warrior. He would rather die than surrender to what he saw as primitive humans. "Never," he shouted into the communicator. "The Xanthari do not surrender." Morrison's reply was sad but firm. "Then you have chosen death for your people. I am sorry it has come to this." More antimatter missiles launched from the human fleet. Kethvar's flagship, the mighty Void Render, took 3 direct hits. The ship's hull cracked like an egg. Atmosphere rushed out into space. Emergency lights flickered and died as his ship died around him. Kethvar finally understood the terrible mistake his people had made. They had thought humans were weak because they wanted peace. But humans were not weak. They were careful. They hoped for the best but prepared for the worst. The Xanthari had brought superior numbers and advanced technology to this battle. But the humans had brought something more dangerous. The wisdom to never trust completely and the determination to survive no matter what the cost. Kethvar's last thought before his ship exploded was that his people had underestimated humanity. The galaxy would not make that mistake again. The battle was over in less than 4 hours. Space around Haven 7 station was filled with the wreckage of Xanthari ships. Broken pieces of metal and plastic drifted slowly through the darkness like a graveyard of alien dreams. Only 12 Xanthari ships remained intact, and they were surrendering one by one. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty, looking at the destruction through his main screen. He felt tired and sad. The humans had won a great victory, but victory, in war, always came with a price. Thousands of aliens had died because their leaders had chosen deception over peace. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Amy Brooks reported, "we are receiving surrender signals from the remaining Xanthari vessels. They are requesting permission to rescue survivors from the damaged ships." Jake nodded. "Grant permission, and send our own rescue ships to help. War is over. Now we save lives." This was the difference between humans and their enemies. Humans fought fiercely when attacked, but they also showed mercy when the fighting ended. Jake believed this was what made humans strong, not just their weapons or tactics. On the Xanthari command ship that had once been War Marshal Kethvar's flagship, a wounded alien officer named Sub-Commander Varthek was trying to keep his ship from exploding. Half of his crew was dead and the ship's hull had huge holes in it, But Varthek was still alive, and that meant he had a responsibility to his people. Varthek activated the emergency communication system with shaking hands. Human ships, this is Sub-Commander Varthek of the Zenthari fleet. I formally surrender my remaining forces. We request mercy for our wounded. Morrison himself answered the call. Sub-Commander, this is Captain Morrison. Your surrender is accepted. We are sending medical teams to help your wounded. The war between our peoples is over. Varthek felt confused. In Zenthari culture, defeated enemies were usually killed or enslaved. The idea that humans would help wounded aliens seemed impossible. Why would you help us? We tried to kill you. Because that is who we are, Morrison replied simply. We fight when we must, but we heal when we can. On Haven 7 station, Ambassador Richard Cole was finally free. Colonel Sam Wright and his team had rescued the diplomatic party and secured the station. Richard was bruised and shaken, but alive. He immediately began working to contact other human and alien governments about what had happened. Helen, Richard said to his assistant, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the Zenthari attacked under a false peace treaty, but we have defeated their fleet. Also send a message to the Zenthari homeworld. Tell them we want to meet their real leaders, not their military commanders. Helen Davis looked surprised. Sir, after what they did, you still want to make peace with them? Richard smiled sadly. Helen, the Zenthari people are not evil. Their leaders made a terrible mistake because they were desperate and afraid. If we want lasting peace, we need to understand why they felt they had to attack us. Dr. Nathan Scott was examining captured Zenthari technology when he made an important discovery. The alien computers contained files about the Zenthari homeworld's environmental problems. Their planet was dying because of industrial pollution and overpopulation. Captain Morrison, Nathan reported over the radio, I think I know why the Zenthari attacked us. Their homeworld is in ecological collapse. They need new planets for their people to live on, or their entire civilization will die. This information changed everything. The Zenthari had not attacked because they hated humans. They had attacked because they were trying to save their own people. It was still wrong, but it was understandable. Morrison called a meeting of all senior human officers. Captain Ruth Thompson came from her stealth ship. Commander Alice Green came from her missile cruiser. Colonel Wright came from the station. Dr. Scott and Ambassador Cole joined by video link. We have won a military victory, Morrison told the group. But now we have to decide what kind of peace we want. We can punish the Zenthari for their attack, or we can help them solve their real problems. Ruth Thompson spoke first. Sir, they tried to kill us all. They deserve to be punished. Alice, Green disagreed. Punishment will not solve anything. If their homeworld is dying, they will just try to attack someone else later. Colonel Wright had a different perspective. What matters is preventing future attacks. If we help them with their environmental problems, they will not need to attack anyone. Ambassador Cole made the final argument. Gentlemen, we have a choice. We can be conquerors or we can be leaders. Conquerors rule through fear. Leaders inspire through example. Morrison thought about all the arguments. Then he made a decision that would change the history of the galaxy. We will offer to help the Zenthari save their homeworld. But this help will come with conditions. They must give up their military expansion. They must accept human observers on their worlds. And they must sign a real peace treaty, not a fake. 1. 3 days later, a new Zenthari delegation arrived at Haven 7. This time it was led by High Minister Keksavara, the civilian leader of the Zenthari government. She was older than the military leaders, with gray streaks in her blue skin. Her 6 eyes showed deep sadness. Humans, Keksavara said as she entered the meeting room. I must apologize for the actions of our military. They acted without my knowledge or approval. War Marshal Kethvar believed that attacking you was the only way to save our people. He was wrong. Ambassador Cole studied the alien leader carefully. Unlike the military commanders, she seemed genuinely sorry for what had happened. High Minister, we appreciate your apology, but words alone cannot undo the damage that has been done. I understand, Kexvara replied. What do you require of us? Cole presented the human terms. The Xanthari would have to disarm most of their military fleet. They would have to allow human scientists to help clean up their polluted homeworld. They would have to join a new interstellar council that would prevent future wars between different species. Kexvara listened to all the terms without arguing. Then she asked, "And in return?" "In return," Cole said, "humanity will share our environmental technology with you. We will help you build new cities that do not pollute. We will even help you find new worlds to colonize peacefully, through negotiation, instead of conquest." The Xanthari leader was silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "Our military leaders told us that humans were weak because you wanted peace. They were wrong. You are strong because you want peace. We accept your terms." The real peace treaty was signed 1 week later. This time, there were no hidden fleets or secret plans. Both sides brought their leaders, their scientists, and their hopes for a better future. Dr. Scott began working with Xanthari scientists to develop new technologies for cleaning polluted worlds. Commander Green started training joint human Xanthari patrol fleets to keep space safe for all species. Colonel Wright established a new military academy where humans and aliens could learn to work together. Captain Morrison was promoted to admiral and given command of the new interstellar peacekeeping force. His first order was to build a permanent base at Haven 7, turning the site of near disaster into a symbol of cooperation. As Morrison watched construction ships from both species working together to build the new base, he thought about the lessons of the false peace treaty. Humans had learned that hoping for peace was not enough. They had to be prepared to fight for peace when necessary. But the most important lesson was this: sometimes the greatest victories came not from defeating enemies, but from turning enemies into friends. The Xanthari attack had failed not just because humans were prepared for war, but because humans were also prepared for forgiveness. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of species that might choose violence over negotiation. But now it also had an example of a different way. When the next crisis came, other species would remember how humans had responded to betrayal with strength and to surrender with mercy. Morrison's final log entry summarized the entire experience. "We came to Haven 7 seeking peace and prepared for war. We found war, but we did not let war destroy our desire for peace. The Xanthari learned that humanity cannot be easily defeated. But more importantly, they learned that humanity can be a powerful ally. The false peace treaty failed, but it led to a real peace that will last for generations. Sometimes the best way to win a war is to help your enemy find a reason to stop fighting." In the years that followed, the Xanthari homeworld was slowly healed. New colonies were established through peaceful negotiations. The joint patrol fleets prevented dozens of potential conflicts between different species. And Haven 7 became the capital of a new interstellar alliance based on cooperation instead of conquest. The peace treaty had indeed been a deception. But humanity had come armed with more than just weapons. They had come armed with wisdom, preparation, and the willingness to forgive. In the end, those had proven to be the most powerful weapons of all.